Hello, everyone. I am very glad to have you back from spring break, and I am really excited to welcome you back and into week 7. This week, we are going to be focusing on one of the most important skills in writing, and that is going to be using evidence effectively. So, the first thing I want to do is go ahead and share my screen so that you can see the PowerPoint here. Um, so our objectives for this week are to understand the role of evidence in strong writing. We're going to learn how to integrate evidence effectively with proper citations. We're going to avoid plagiarism by correctly attributing sources and strengthen weak arguments by incorporating relevant evidence. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand the important role of evidence in strong writing, be able to integrate it, be able to strengthen your argument by clearly explaining your ideas. So what that basically means and boils down to is why evidence matters. So, when you are writing arguments, you are going to take and transform opinions into credible arguments. So, a claim alone is just an opinion. Um, Evidence makes your writing stronger, um, and it can certainly help and hurt your opinion as well. It can certainly make or break your opinion. If you use evidence, it makes your writing stronger and credible, and really helps you be able to prove your point. As strong writers show and explain their ideas, um, and they are utilizing their evidence. I need to fix the slideshow. It's not really working out the way that I really like it. So this is the formula that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this week the ICE formula, and I know that's kind of ironic, um, especially given the climate today, but it stands for introduce, cite, and explain. So you're going to give context before your quote. You're going to include the quote in detail and give a little bit of credit. And then you're going to explain it where you analyze and connect back to your claim. The little light bulb at the bottom is really important because it's not just including evidence, it's explaining it and giving proper parenthetical credits. And so that means you include a parenthetical citation at the end. That's the attribution there in the parentheses at the end. So step one is to introduce. And so again, the instructions are to give context before your quote. You want to explain what is happening in the text without saying this shows, this shows, this shows, this shows. Um, so, for example, the excerpt you're reading this week is from a novel by Sonia Nazario called Enrique's Journey. And it talks about this young boy who takes this journey on La Bestia, a train um, from Central America to come into the United States. It is an extremely dangerous and very scary journey, and you will read just a little bit about it. But if you're interested, of course, the book is available at our local library. So examples of introducing your information, you have to give some context. And for some reason, it didn't italicize it, but whenever you're talking about a book, you want to put the title in italics. In Enrique's Journey, the author describes, that gives you a little bit of context. The text explains. Nazario shows, there are much better words to use than shows. You can say exemplifies, illustrates, demonstrates. Look at the chart of attribution verbs that I emailed to all of you. And if you don't have it, please let me know. I'll be happy to email it to you again. But these are examples of you just giving context. The second step is to actually integrate the citation. So in week 6, you practiced your parenthetical citations for your grammar practice. Um, you are going to include the quote or the detail. You're going to blend it into your sentence and you're going to give credit to the author. So, for example, she explains that children face constant danger from gangs. I don't know who she is. Um, you could say author Nazario explains, again, using the attribution verb there. But if you use the author's name in your citation, your signal phrase there, then you would have to just use the page number. Because you are not given page numbers in your excerpts, I would like for you to not do that or just use the plain generic one. It's up to you, however you want to do it. The third step in this ICE method is to explain, and it is the most important part. I cannot stress to you enough the importance of the explanation part. In 1101, we refer to this as commentary, but there are two key questions you have to ask yourself. The first question is, what does this show? The second question is, why does this matter? So I've given you some sentence stems. The evidence suggests that. The text demonstrates that. The passage reveals that. And I would prefer you not overuse the word that, and that. Um, the description illustrates how. But your best practice, and if there's nothing else you get out of this class, it is to make sure that you are not saying this statement. This shows that. In academic writing, that is completely inappropriate. And so we want to avoid using that phrase. Absolutely. It is completely banned from my classes. Now, of course, we are only in week 7, but at this point, I would like to see a little bit of development in your writing and you not using the phrase. This shows that it's very elementary, middle, and we're really looking for more of a adult and third person audience as you transition. Even though you are an emerging writer, the goal is for you to be successful in this class so that you can take ENC 1101. So, introduce is step 1. Give context. Cite is step 2, and step 3 is to explain. Step 3 is the most important part. Okay, so to go back to that, to Enrique's journey, the excerpt that you're reading this week, it is cause and effect. So when you read the excerpt, some of you might get really sad when you read about it. It is a really difficult thing to discuss and talk about. But it is written in a cause effect style, even though it is a work of fiction. And it is a reality for a lot of people. Um, so you're going to look at things like what causes the children to leave, and what's the effect of what happens as a result of their decision to leave Central America. So you can say things like due to a overpopulation of gangs. You can say as a result of these actions lead to the decision to leave Central America. I gave you some sentence starters there just to kind of help you a little bit as you begin to compose. As always, I like to try to make sure that students have an example of weak writing and strong writing every week. So, and this one has some really bad spelling errors, but it does come from actual student writing. So this is migrant children leave because of violence. In Enrique's journey, Nazario explains that children face constant danger. So the commentary that I would give you here is right here, and I'm just going to point my mouse over here. Paragraph ends without explaining how this evidence connects to the claim. So what's missing here? Your evidence is included, but it's not explained. The connection between violence and migration is not clear. The cause and effect are underdeveloped. It's actually only 2 sentences, and the reader is left to do the thinking. And while it is okay occasionally to make your reader think, in emerging writers, particularly, it is important to be able to be crystal clear. And so that's why this example is weak. And like I said, this is an actual student example from previous years of teaching this course. That being said, I will transition into strong writing. So you can see, I do have it highlighted here, with a color code key, so that you can see. Um, Purple is the claim, green is introduce and cite, and pink is the explanation. So if you look at this paragraph, one major factor influencing why migrant children leave Central America is the constant threat of violence. In Enrique's journey, Sonia Nazario describes how many children grow up surrounded by gang activity and instability. She explains that they face constant danger from gangs. Notice it is a paraphrase. It is not a direct quote. I put it in my own words. Nazario's descriptions demonstrates that migration often emerges as a response to unsafe living conditions rather than a simple choice. And then, of course, I have the ending, to the paragraph. As a result of these conditions, children are pushed to leave their homes, resulting in dangerous journeys and long-term consequences. Again, this also comes from an example of student writing. It is strong. There are a couple of little issues here, that you could fix. You don't want to repeat words over and over again. Um, and in this case, just to show you with my mouse here, you do have as a result. And so because you're doing cause and effect, and this is an example of strong writing, you have the phrase as a result, but you don't want to repeat the word result. And so you have it here again, resulting in dangerous journeys. So you'd have to find an alternative word there. So why is this paragraph strong? Well, it does more than just include evidence. It explains it clearly. The claim is specific. It's focused on one clear cause. The evidence is introduced and cited correctly. The explanation connects the evidence directly to the claim. The writer clearly shows the cause and effect, and the paragraph flows logically. And I cannot reiterate to you how important it is to make sure that things flow logically. Um, with that being said, it really, is critically important that you, utilize this, watch this video as much as possible. I'm going to send you the slideshow so that you have it as a reference, um, because it's very, very important. The difference in the first paragraph and the second paragraph really is the citation and the explanation. Um, Strong writing takes time to explain ideas clearly. And one of the things that I do want to stress and make sure that I reiterate and tell you over and over again is you cannot wait till last minute to do your assignments in this class. If you wait until the last minute and they are due, then it causes problems for you because you're rushing. So I would advise you to make sure you are using your time wisely. As I said in the first week, in the first video, for each college class you take, you should dedicate a minimum of 3 hours per week, to that class, and the assignments that are in it. With that being said, I want to connect it to your writing notebook entry number 7. On that note, I do want to say that I am working on getting caught up on the grading. I did take a break during spring break and I literally did not even open my computer, but I will get caught up on the grading, very, very soon. Um, so you are going to write one analytical paragraph. You are going to make a clear claim. You're going to use evidence from Enrique's journey. You're going to explain the cause and effect, and you're going to use clear transitions. Your prompt is on your Brightspace page, and I will get to that here in just a couple of minutes. But this is the basic breakdown of what you'll be doing for writing notebook entry 7. So this is just a, very small, short, um, infographic that I did, how to organize your paragraph. You want to have your claim, you want to introduce your evidence, you want to cite your evidence, you want to explain the cause, you want to explain the effects, and you want to wrap up your idea. And I always tell students to wrap it up in a nice tight little bow. You want to connect it back to that claim. If you don't connect it back to the claim, it does cause issues for the reader. It can be confusing, it can be ambiguous, it could mean multiple different things. And because I am your audience and I am grading you and I am reading it, it's really, really, really important. Um, so it is really, really, really important that you focus and make sure you're using your time wisely. I'm trying not to repeat myself, but it is after midnight and I am recording this night. With that being said, going into the next one, if you get stuck, I gave you some sentence stems here. All assignments have to be in MLA format, but if you're introducing the author explains, the text reveals, that gives you a little bit of context there. Explaining the evidence suggests that the text demonstrates that, again, like I told you, don't overuse the word that. Cause and effect. As a result, this leads to and consequently. That being said, um, as you begin to write and compose it, I always recommend handwriting. But you want to make sure that you are giving credit where credit is due. If the words are not yours, please cite them. Even if you change the wording, you still have to cite as evidenced in the um, paragraph from earlier with the strong writing. You notice it was paraphrased, or I told you it was paraphrased, and there's no quotation marks, but you still have to give credit where credit is due. And if you're in doubt, put a citation there. It's not going to hurt you, certainly, but it is something that's critically important. Also, revision is important. I cannot stress this to you enough as an emerging writer, and a developmental writer. You need to make sure that you're doing revisions before you turn in the final product. Try reading it out loud, even if you have to read it to your dog, your cat, your small children, your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, cousin, the heir. Um, Read it out loud because oftentimes when you're reading something out loud, you can catch the mistakes. You want to check for clear and complete sentences. You want to make sure your language is precise and you want to add transitions between ideas. If your explanation is only one sentence, you need to add more detail. A solid paragraph response is 8 to 10 sentences typically. I will accept 6 to 8, but minimally it should be 6 sentences because otherwise it's not a paragraph, it's a short response. So you want to make sure that it is a minimum of 6 to 8 sentences. Now, some of you, I can see the progression in your writing as we've gone through the course, and some of you are getting more and more confidence, and I'm very pleased with that. As I've seen you develop into longer pieces to go from 2 or 3 sentences to a full paragraph. That is no small feat, and I'm really proud of you for that. But you do need to make sure that you are checking to see if it needs revisions. With that being said, this is just a small checklist. Before you submit, you want to check these things. Did you make a clear claim? Did you include and cite evidence? Did you explain how the evidence proves your claim? And did you show cause and effect? So those are the major things that you'll be focusing on this week. And additionally, I'm going to send you a slideshow, which is in your Brightspace. It's actually under week 7, so I'm not going to sit here and go over it, but I am going to go over your assignments here. So we're going to go to week 7 as I um, go into sharing my screen again. All right, here. That's yeah. Hang on. That's the wrong class. So hang on. Go to the right class here. Brightspace. Here we go. All right, and please ignore the amount of things that I have to grade. I'll get it done. All right, so week 7, your objectives are here, which I went over at the beginning of the video. So to understand the role of evidence, learn how to integrate evidence, avoid plagiarism by correctly attributing sources, to strengthen weak arguments by incorporating relevant evidence. You have your PowerPoint presentation using evidence effectively in academic writing. This tells you how to integrate evidence. Your excerpt from Enrique is here as well. This is a Word document on how to use the ICE method. This also has a CER chart, which stands for Claim, Evidence, and Reasoning. Again, you will utilize that as well as you begin to go into thinking about what you're going to argue for your final essay. And then here's your writing notebook entry 7, your analytical reasoning and cause and effect. So, using the excerpt from Enrique's journey, you're going to write a well-developed analytical paragraph that explains the causes and effects of a real-world issue you've been examining throughout the course. So, since the beginning, I asked you to identify a issue the very first week that was arguable and one that was near and dear to your heart. A lot of you have chosen to write about issues with stereotypes and things involving the readings that you've been doing. But you have to be able to make a clear claim. You don't want to waffle. You can't say, well, it might be this or it might be that. You really want to look at how the issue you're studying influences why migrant children from Central America take dangerous journeys to the United States. You need at least one specific piece of evidence from the reading to support your claim. You want to explain the cause and effect relationship, showing how conditions connected to your issue contribute to the decision to migrate and what effects result from that decision. You're going to use logical transitions, and these are all things that'll be graded on the rubric, and precise language to clearly connect ideas and maintain your cohesion. So again, that logical progression, being able to understand what you are reading. Your grammar practice this week is on revision. And so that is also really important. But that's what you'll be doing. Let me just triple check and see if you have any quizzes this week. I think you do not. Yeah, you're good for now. For your quizzes. So you don't have a quiz this week. You just have the writing notebook entry 7 and you have your grammar practice for the week. Now, one thing I will say, and I will say this again and again and again, um, as always, at the time of recording this video, it has not yet been updated. But what I do is I set up that you have to complete the entire module before you can see the assignments. So if you don't watch the video, if you don't view the PowerPoints, if you don't complete the readings in your book, then and of course, I can't police any of those things, but if you don't view your objectives, if you don't view the PowerPoints, if you don't read the excerpt, if you don't look at the handouts, if you don't watch the video, you will not be able to access and or see the assignments. That is designed so that you make progress in the course and you're actually spending the time that you're supposed to be spending on the assignments. And so those restrictions are placed there intentionally. As always, reach out if you have questions. I know you didn't get to see my face this week, but it's really late at night when I'm making this video, and B, it is also, I'm not exactly well, if you can't tell from listening to my voice, and still recovering from a very long, very cold trip to New York City. So as always, you have my cell phone number. You can text me if you have questions. Please do not text during school hours. I do work every day at the high school from 8:30 until 3:30. And I am also at the college on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights from 5 until 7:30, 8 o'clock most evenings. Um, I don't answer my phone after 8 p.m. typically. And on Thursday nights, I have my own class, but I don't have office hours. You can text me, you may not get an answer. As far as anything else, sending me an email is really your best bet. And if you haven't heard from me within 48 hours, then please shoot me a text and say, hey, Mrs. Wood, I sent you an email. Could you please respond to it? Um, it will really help you in the long run. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope that you um, have tremendous success in your writing notebook 7. And I am looking forward to reading your reflections, your midterm reflections, and reading and grading your work and seeing all the progress that you guys have made. But I hope you have an amazing week. Happy return from spring break. And as always, reach out if you have any questions. So the last thing that I will say to you is um, good writers do not just find quotes. They think about what those quotes mean and they think about why they matter. You need to take your time. You need to follow the structure and you need to focus on the ICE method. Introduce, cite, and explain your evidence clearly. I promise you, you've got this. Have an amazing week, and I'm looking forward to talking with you next week.